Hi there, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast, conversations designed for the conscious community to bring awareness to those holistic practices which help us to live our best life. So tap into the knowledge and wisdom of our guests to extract what you need to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. So today I am actually really honored to have on our podcast the gorgeous Alicia Temmerman. And she runs a business that's called the Global Soul Center. So hi there, and I would love you to introduce yourself.
Hello, thanks Katie for having me on here. I was super excited to be invited onto your podcast. It feels very aligned when I hear you talk about the things that you're doing and supporting out into the world. I was really happy to be here. So thank you. So hi everyone, hello to the listeners. I am Alicia and I live in Melbourne, and I am a mama of 4 kids ranging from 5 to 15. So
That'd keep you busy.
Yeah, it occupies a lot of time, a lot of headspace, a lot of all of that stuff in the mum land. And I have a few businesses, but the one that really makes my heart sing and my soul soar the most is definitely the Global Soul Center that you spoke about. And the Global Soul Center, it is currently online, but I also do live events. And my big vision for that is to really create a physical space where people can come, and it will be a high energy frequency space.
Oh, that feels so good. I want to be there right now.
Yeah, well, I have kind of started to create it just in a small way, but yeah, I'm imagining a much bigger venue where we have different practitioners who offer different things and services, really to help people to connect back with the truth of them and their soul and who we really are. And that's really my mission and my work, is to help people to remember who we are, magnificent spiritual beings currently traversing and navigating a bit of a tricky realm, this earth realm, but to remember that we are eternal, that we signed up for this, and more from a practical perspective, to help people to learn how to manage their energy and to learn how to boost, clear, charge, and to manage the interactions of day-to-day modern life so that it's not depleting for them, and so that we can still be really excited about this human journey and not be worn down and overwhelmed and exhausted and all the things that so many modern humans are. So yeah, that's kind of the bigger high level version of it, I guess.
I love that so much, everything you've said, and that is in complete alignment with what I've got going on right now, because so many people are walking around not knowing that everything they need is right within them, and then they can connect into that and you know, here's the tools to do this, or this might work for you, this might not work for you, but why not just get curious?
Yeah, I love that. And curiosity is a big piece of it. I think that if we get fixated on the only things we can see, feel, and touch being real, and not being open with that childlike wonder to what else is maybe happening. And I believe that what we can see, feel, and touch is really only about 1% of what's actually going on. And there's just so much more. And so like just reminding us to tap back into that magic that kids just naturally have, and they know they're just creative, so creative, and they don't question things as much. They question in a good, curious way, but they just have this way of just being and flowing through the world and being present and being in the moment. And I think, you know, we get conditioned by this society and by all of our structures that we lose that. So yeah, really wanting the playfulness back, and not to take life so seriously.
Yes, that word is so good. Playfulness. Bring more playfulness in. Do you feel like you've learned a lot from your children?
Oh, there's no one that's taught me as much as these children. and on the daily, like you're just constantly, oh my goodness. It's like one day, and you'll know this as a mum, it's like, oh, you think, oh my gosh, I think maybe I've worked this out. I think I've worked that child out, or I've know how, and then it'll be like the next day, like you're flat on your face again, like, no,
pivot.
I got no idea. And yeah, it's the motherhood journey for me has been the most transformative, the most challenging. Like for me, working has always been easy, but parenting, no. Yep. I do not find parenting easy. I find it like just, so unpredictable.
Yeah. I have this beautiful friend who always reminds me that our children chose us when they came here to heal particular parts of us. And I always, like, when I look at my children now, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Oh, it's so true. I agree 100%. And I know that our children do choose us. They choose us, I think, both for us and for them. So to help with our healing, but also for their own curriculum and their own learning. But yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Oh dear. So what are some of the other things you've got going on as well?
Outside of the Global Soul Centre?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been a lawyer for 20 years and I specialise in employment law. And after spending 10 years in one of the big firms, I jumped out on my own into my own business. And that was back in 2012, and started my business doing workplace investigations and mediations. And now I only do workplace mediations. So I still see that as healing work because it's relationship conflict. So when people in the workplace are not getting along and they're having issues, I sit down with one person, tell me a story, what's going on, and I sit down with the other one, and then I bring them together in a joint session to help them to navigate their relationship and to work out what agreements they can have moving forward to try and minimize the angst, to have a greater understanding of each other's perspectives, to create and set intentions for their working relationship. So it is related to my Global Soul Centre work in one way, but it's also in another way, it feels very much like my kind of legal hat
3D
on.
hat.
Yeah, my 3D hat.
I feel like also there'd be this extra depth to it because of your spiritual gifts and knowledge that, you know, the relationship mediation isn't just between the two of them. It's like their relationship with themselves before they come together.
Yeah, so much of it is like that. And yeah, I think the intuitive piece of me just helps that work to be pretty easy for me.
Yeah.
Like it just flows and I love it. And it's really exciting to see people come from being in such a difficulty with each other to be able to see the shift. Like there's really magic that happens in these mediation sessions. It's not always. Sometimes the magic, I'm like, oh God, this is beyond me. But yeah, it's really extraordinary to see.
Helping to open people's eyes perhaps, and they might even be curious after that sort of process or session to dive into more inner work or this more spiritual stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I don't talk in those sessions about all the other work I do, but what I do is talk to them about their energy management and, you know, making sure that they're doing things to feed their soul and look after themselves at this time. And even that might be the first time that they've even really thought about, you know, doing those things for themselves. So yeah, that's really fun. And I've actually started using that methodology for couples, because so often the mediations, I'd feel like I was mediating a marriage but it's workplace relationships. And I was like, you know what, this could actually work really well for couples. It's not a counselling approach, but it's really just around communication and setting intentions and agreements and boundaries and things like that. So I've started doing that. And then I also, for 10 years, I've also had an online skincare and makeup business that I have just been doing as well. So, and that's been amazing. I've learned a lot through running that.
How do you find the spaciousness between 4 children and all of those different lines of effort?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm very enthusiastic about life, and I like diversity. And it sounds like a lot. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's not that much because everything's very much part-time around the kids, and because I work for myself, I've just been able to do it. So it probably sounds a lot, but sometimes it might be, hardly anything of any of them each week, or a bit more of that, or a bit more less of this, or
Now I can kind of resonate because I'm a bit like you and I've got all these different hats, but I would love to ask you a question just for my own interest. Do people always think you're super busy and not reach out to you because of that? Like as in friends and family, like they don't reach out because they're like, oh, she's just so busy all the time.
I don't think so. I mean, I have had people say to me kind of on the outside, people, oh my gosh, you're doing so much, you're so busy, or things like that. But I think people that are really close to me know that I'm around a lot too. So yeah, I don't tend to experience that, but maybe it's happening and I don't even know.
People are like, oh, you're so busy, you're doing so much. I'm like, am I? It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, well, because when you're having fun, it doesn't really feel like weighty or heavy. And there were parts in my life which wasn't fun, and I've just stopped doing those things.
Yeah, how good is that?
I've taken out the pieces of the work that, like workplace investigations, they were super lucrative, but they were too expensive for me and my family. It just took too much from me. And so I just decided, no, I'm not doing them anymore.
Yeah, just really having really clear-cut boundaries.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as simple as that. We can't always just do everything constantly that's always fun, right? Because the reality is, but yeah, the more that we feel into that and follow our heart, it's always served me well.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great advice for the listeners as well. So really listen to that part if you need to. So how did you get into doing your global school work? Like, have you always had quite a strong spiritual side?
Well, I was always interested in the bigger questions from when I was little. Like I wanted to know what I wanted to know about God. And I remember I was brought up Catholic and I went to Catholic schools. And I remember sitting in church and thinking, I'm going to be a priest. I want to be a priest. And I wanted to learn all the words and I wanted to do all of those kind of things. So I was always very interested in the Gospels and Jesus and things like that. But then I kind of moved away from it. But when I was about 16, my cousin died. And that really got me really thinking, like, what happens next? Where do we go? And that's when I started reading a lot about near-death experiences and past lives and all of that stuff. But it wasn't until, it was actually 2009 when I had the vision for the Global Soul Centre. I was having a massage. I was exhausted, 2 little kids, and I had this massage and I just saw so clearly this whole vision of this Global Soul Centre. And it was just so clear to me. And I remember thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do with that vision? And then it wasn't until 2012 that the big experience happened for me, which is when I discovered that I am a channeler and a bridge between this realm and other realms. That was a big shock at the time. I was just hanging out the washing and had this experience where this voice started talking to me, but using my voice, saying, I am, in quite a masculine tone. I am about 30 times. And I'm just kind of here outside in the backyard going, what is happening here? And I was like, I am Goenga, your father's spirit guide, here to remind you what you're here to do on earth. And that's when he spoke about teaching the laws of energy and helping people remember who they truly are. And in that moment, Katie, I was like, okay, I've just gone spontaneously crazy when I'm like pretty sensible, conservative, not drug taking human, or this is actually happening. So that happened. And then over the coming weeks, I had lots of other energies come in and introduce themselves and take over, arms and legs, and not legs, but my arms moving differently, speaking differently. And I went and got a video camera at the time because I thought, it was before we had iPhones and things like that, and I had to go buy an old school camera. So I thought, I need to video and document this. Like I felt like the lawyer in me wanted the evidence. And so then but it took me about 6 years to tell more than about 6 people about all of that, because
you were learning it for yourself, like discovering what was happening.
Yeah, it was just so weird and out there. And, I was concerned about what people were going to think about me, that I was crazy. So it took me a long time to work it out. And I didn't even know I was a channeler, because I didn't even know what that word was. I think it wasn't for years after that until I kind of was looking on YouTube at one point, and I found another one. And I was like, oh, that's like me.
Yeah.
And she calls herself a channeler. It's like, is that what it is? Is that what I am? That's kind of how it really started. So then it wasn't, so that was 2012, which I later learned was a significant year in the whole spiritual community. And then 2018 was when I started sharing the channelings and starting to say, right, I need to start sharing messages and start working with people in this way. And so that's where that's kind of where it all began.
And were you able to control it when it was coming through initially?
So it's a great question, because initially, no. So yes and no. Initially, what I couldn't control is when they would choose to come in.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they would always choose a time where I was by myself. So not when my kids were around. And so like, it would be like if my husband had took the kids out somewhere and I'd be doing whatever, folding the laundry or whatever, then an energy would come in. And it was scary for me at the time. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, am I being taken over, by an entity or something? But then on the other hand, I just felt so calm, and the messages were so beautiful.
You knew it was right.
Yeah, there's nothing, the messages were so loving and so beautiful. Like, you just washed with this unconditional love and divinity, and this, it's like, how can this be not good?
Feels beautiful.
It really feels beautiful. And so I did, though, have to learn the boundaries and to start to take the control back. Because we are in control of our own journey. And so I did do that. And since that time, I only ever have energies come through me when I ask.
Oh, that's really great. And back at the start, what was your husband's sort of reaction to it all? Was he open to it? Was he curious?
So my husband was a Jehovah's Witness for a long time. So I don't know if you know much about that, but for Jehovah's Witnesses, this is like you're playing with the devil. So for him, it was, I'm not sure I even told him immediately, because I remember I told about 5 people for 6 years, and he wasn't one of them straight away, because I knew he'd be worried for me. And I can't remember exactly at what point I did start to talk to him about it. It was early on. And I had an experience where his sister passed away, and she came through me when his mum was over from England, and she was talking to his mum through me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was really intense. It was amazing, actually. And he was there, but there was just cognitive dissonance for him. It was too hard for him to really get his head around that what was happening. So it's been an ongoing journey with Marky. He's from Northern England. He's salt of the earth, tradie. So this stuff's pretty out there for him. And he's kind of been supportive of me doing my thing, but it's only been recently that he's had his first energy healing with me. So even though
that's huge.
10 years since this stuff started, it was only about 3 months ago that he actually.
Oh, congratulations for that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
My husband's a bit the same, he's like, I'll support you from afar, but what are you putting in your cauldron today, witchy poo? Like that kind of, banter, which I'm totally okay with. But the day he comes to see me for energy advice, I think I'll fall off my chair.
Yeah, I know. It's it's a funny thing when there's like so much part of the way that you see the world and experience the world is kind of fundamentally different. So it's been an interesting one to navigate, that's for sure.
I feel like they help to keep us grounded though.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I might fly off into the ether otherwise.
And so I love that you mentioned there at the end, like now you control when that comes through. So when do you choose to do your channeling, and how are you presenting with that these days?
Yeah, so a few different ways. So I to kind of make myself do it, because when it all first started in 2012, it was like pretty fun at the start. I was like, oh my gosh, like learning. But then life got busy and I had these 2 kids and then was working and then had more kids. And so I wasn't fitting it in or really practicing and integrating the energies. And so then that's when I stepped out of the closet. I was like, right, or whether they gave me the idea to do it. But that's when I set up the Facebook group that you're in, where I'm accountable, where I say every week I'll do a channeling, because it just kind of forces me to do it. I'm more an external accountable person. So yeah, I do a message once a week usually into that group, and then I do one-on-one sessions. So if people want energy work one-on-one, and then I also run like women's circles courses, and also I've done a couple of retreats this year as well, where I've done a lot of channeling in those as well.
What made you get into the women's circles part of your work?
Oh goodness, I love women's circles. It was actually my mum. So my mum had connected with these amazing women from North America who created and founded this circle training course called what do they call it? The Circle Way, I think they call it. And they've got a website, Peer Spirit or something. And they've been the custodians and they've handed that over to other people now. But they were out from North America, and my mum and I did some circle training with them. My mum did the bigger one over in America. And so, yeah, it was really through my mum that I did the circle training. I can't remember in the timeline, but it was a long time ago. I think it was like 2006. So even actually now I think about it, that was like way before the channeling started.
Maybe that was some of the gateways into opening up, because I was thinking when you're sharing your experience at the clothesline, like what made them choose that time to come to you? Like, I wonder what was.
Okay, so I've asked that question and they said that I chose that time.
Oh, wow.
So I was 36. There was something around that age, and I can't remember what they said, but it was something about the dragon year, or like, I don't know if it was there was some meaning around it. And then I later learned that the 2012 was some big spiritual awakening year or something. But yeah, supposedly I chose that time at when I was 36. That it was
the age 36 is just coming up a lot for me lately. And one of our previous podcasts with a numerologist, she talks around, what's your turning point in your lifetime. I wonder if that was yours with your numerology. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, it was just this concept that, because even when so many times I've questioned it and thought, really, oh my gosh, is this the work I've got to do? It's it comes through a bit strangely, the channeling. I'm like, can't I just look a bit more normal? And they remind me, they're like, you signed up for that. Like, you've chosen all of this, so you can't come to us, you can't go saying, oh, why this, why that.
And have you helped other men or women that have chosen this, or it's come to them and they're not sure where to go or how to do or how to support themselves?
Yeah, I have. So people have tended to kind of find me, and yeah, if they've had experiences like this, then I have done, like, I think I call it like a spiritual mentoring and things like that, where just to help them, because I know at the time it was scary in a lot of ways too, and I didn't know who to turn to at that time. And it's a lot more common now. I mean, there's just channels popping up all over the place now. But back in 2012, there weren't a lot of channelers that.
Yeah, you would have felt a little bit alone. Like, I don't, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And in the last couple of years in COVID, actually, I've met, because I set up a Facebook group. I don't know if you're in that one, with women wellness practitioners during COVID, for people to offer free classes so we could all stay strong in body and spirit and mind through COVID. And through that, I've met a lot of amazing practitioners and a number of channelers. So that's been really exciting. It's like, oh my gosh, you're. I mean, everyone is a channeler, I believe. But yeah, to the degree, depending on the degree and how they're doing it. But yeah, that's been really exciting.
Oh, how amazing. I have just loved chatting with you. I always ask at the end of all of the podcasts is like, if you've got any advice for the listeners wanting to explore either the work that you do more, or how to tap into their sort of inner soul musings, what would you say?
Oh, so actually a message that came through on Monday, which was for me and for others. So often we are distracting ourselves with so many things out in the world. There are so many things to distract us, right? You know, I'll listen to that thing, I'll watch that thing, I'll read this thing, but actually what we often are avoiding is actually just sitting in silence with ourselves.
Yeah.
And so this was one of the messages that came through this week was, you know, there's nothing outside of ourselves that can possibly come close to the richness, to the treasures, to the abundance, to this inner temple that we have within us. This is where this ultimate peace and all of the stuff that everyone's yearning to have, these feelings of peace. It's not outside, it's not there. It's fleetingly, maybe, if you think, listeners, those moments where you've got what you've been striving for, or you've had your baby, or you've got married, or you've done the thing that you thought was going to bring you that. It's so fleeting. But it is within us. And so just really being disciplined on your spiritual journey, and for taking that time each day to sit in silence and solitude and really start to work with your own stuff and whatever's coming up, and allowing things to work through you, and really get to know yourself more and feel really comfortable in your own space. That's one thing, to build your energy as well, to really build. It's as simple as just putting your palms out and just eyes closed, and just consciously drawing into and building your energy and building your chi up, and starting to feel and play with your energy as well is really exciting.
And having that deeper awareness around what you're feeling in your body, that sort of, you know, instead of just thinking in your head all the time, like actually dropping into the body, I feel is just so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and not being afraid of our emotions, because we've all been taught, no, don't have emotions, don't have big emotions, they're not allowed, you can't have anger, you can't have this, you've got to be quiet, you got to don't make a big fuss, you know, all that stuff.
All that horrible positive, let's all just be positive and sing and dance and be happy. It's like, we don't have to be all the time.
No, that's right. And just, really surrendering and allowing. We came for human experience.
Yeah.
We came because of all the spectrum of emotions. So embracing that and really enjoying the ride of it, even on a daily basis. It's, you know, it's normal if you're feeling elated 1 minute and down the neck. Like, this is the human journey, and we constantly trying to control it and not feel these things and get this sense of peace and zen. Like, that is not what this realm is about.
And I love as well, I've seen some of your work where you refer to it as Earth School, and I love that terminology, because it's so that. Like, we signed up for a pretty treacherous journey here. Like, it's, who do you know who gets through unscathed? No one. Like, there's a reason for that, because we chose a dense planet with duality and sickness and health and hot and cold and all of that stuff. Oh, I love dipping into duality. Listeners, if you haven't done any work around that, check it out. Yeah, thank you so much for everything that you've shared today. And we've only just scraped the top. We might need to get you back at some stage for a number 2 episode, I think.
Oh, beautiful. I would love that. Always happy.
Thank you so
chat
much
with
for your
you.
time. And listeners, all the information will be down in the bio on everywhere that this is posted if you wanted to reach out and find out more.
Oh, thank you so much.
Bye for now.
Thank you, darling.